This is Aaron Brooks, and you're listening to Rock Paper Podcast.
Rock Paper Podcast.
Scissors beat paper, paper covers rock. Rock beats scissors, Shane covers non-stop. Never know what new kind of guest that he's got coming at you. Live and direct on the spot. Could be rock, folk, country, or hip-hop, jazz. All kind of folks that he has. Could be an artist or a comedian to make you laugh on the
Rock Paper Podcast.
double-decker fudge round, rolling round town. Shane coming at you live and direct from ground zero. He's your hero, he's your bestie. Rock Paper Podcast with Shane Presley.
Rock Paper Podcast.
Hey everybody, Shane Presley here, Rock Paper Podcast, coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri, hanging out on Zoom with Aaron Brooks. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh, thank you for having me.
This is great, man. I'm very glad, very excited that this all worked out. We're kind of just catching up here before we hit record, and I don't know, man. We go back quite a bit now. Like it's like,
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess nine years.
almost a decade.
Yeah, almost 10 now.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. But yeah, we've been following you around when you were working a lot here in St. Louis area.
Yeah.
And so I haven't seen you as much recently since you have moved, but and we'll get into some of that, I'm sure. But yeah, man. So like I said, this was it's nice to catch up with buddies doing this stuff, doing podcasting and things, and Zoom has made it a very convenient option that we can be sitting in different spots around the country and talk to each other face to face like this. So
Yeah, it's incredible.
But yeah, man. So I guess so you started comedy here in St. Louis, right? And grew up in the area.
Yeah, I grew up on the east side in Illinois. I went to Dupo High School. It's it's like 3,000 people. It's a little small town, just like near South City or near the south side, because I was pretty close to like the JB Bridge and also like Route 3 Bridge. So you could get like two different parts of the city pretty quickly from where I lived, which was nice. But I grew up there, and I actually started comedy in Fairview Heights, Illinois, at Comedy Etc. 2, run by the purveyor of laughter himself, Art Veloff. Great man, good guy. And I was in St. Louis for about 2.5 years. I mean, I grew up there.
Yeah.
Like that's the only place I'd ever lived was over in Illinois, between Columbia and Dupo. And
was Comedy Etc. Was that the same room as the funny Fairview Heights Funny Bone too?
Yeah, it was in the Ramada Inn.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been to the Comedy Etc. too, but I did see. I've been a big fan of comedy for a long time, and I remember shooting them or getting on the website or whatever. Maybe I messaged them or something to clarify and make sure I could get in because I wasn't 21.
Oh, okay.
But me and some buddies went over there. We were 18 or 19. And drove over I live out in Wentzville, Missouri.
Damn.
So it was like about an hour, and went to see Josh Sneed at Fairview Heights Funny Bone, and so it was a really good time. And
yeah, it was in the same building, the same space. There's a Ramada Inn that's actually owned by, I think at the time, it was like Jack Buck was like a part owner of the hotel. It was a Ramada Inn, and the Ramada Inn, it was so shitty of a Ramada Inn that Ramada took the name away.
Right.
They're like, you can't have tube TVs in all of your rooms. It's 2010.
Yeah.
You have to clean blood up off the carpet. Like, it wasn't like a nice hotel, but in the ground floor of that hotel was a TGI Fridays, right? So it went from a Ramada to like I think it was a Thrifty Inn. It was something that when you see a Thrifty Inn on the side of the highway, you're like, oh fuck, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, just gonna.
Can I curse, or am I doing?
Yeah, you can say whatever. It's on the internet, man.
So it went from like Ramada to a not so great hotel chain, and the TGI Fridays was still there. Well, that hotel ended up going out of business, and they tore the whole thing down. And in its place, they just built a bigger TGI Fridays. It's like it's insane. It's a TGI Fridays with a hotel size parking lot.
Right.
It's wild.
You know what this Fairview Heights needs? A bigger TGI Fridays.
A bigger TGI Fridays
Yeah.
with ample parking. Yeah, that's where I got my start.
I think we had a Holiday Inn around here, and I think our Holiday Inn had done a similar move where they lost the name and then they became a Ramada Inn. So, which I find funny. So
that's the hierarchy, man.
Yeah. So
Holiday Inn, Ramada Inn, Thrifty Inn, TGI Fridays. You're out of business.
Natural progression, man. That's how it goes. Yeah. So yeah, we met, like I said, I don't know, probably in that area, 2010, 2011, I guess. Is that where you were pretty new to comedy then, or?
Yeah, I didn't start until like mid-December of 2009. So I literally did like 2 shows, or probably more than that, but I did a handful of shows in 2009. And then in 2010, it was probably like, I don't know, like probably 4 months in that I started like getting around, like I started getting invited to do other shows and kind of got out of my Comedy Etc. bubble. So that's when I started like meeting people who didn't come to Illinois, that were just like, they only did stuff in the city. And I started like making friends with those guys, and it opened up like that whole world of comedy to me. Like the East Side is one thing, because people don't want to cross a river. Like that's the whole thing. Like our comedy club was closer to where some people lived, and they wouldn't go to it because of this, like, because there's a river, and I feel like there's like some psychological barrier there.
Yeah.
But it was like pretty segregated. Like a lot of the Illinois guys didn't go over to the city, and a lot of the city guys didn't go over to Illinois. So unless you like made an effort, you wouldn't really get to experience the whole scene. And I was so lucky to be able to kind of dip into that pretty early after I started comedy.
Yeah, I get a lot of that too. Like, again, being out here, another 40 miles west from St. Louis, like I get a lot of like, there's that river.
Yeah,
there's 2 rivers you got to cross, to get. So it's like even more
double screwed. Yeah,
right. But I try to get my friends to come to just downtown and do something, and they're like, they'll go to St. Charles. That's about as far as they'll go, and they don't want to cross the river. So.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like it's not distance. It's like a psychological thing that people just don't want to cross a body of water, I guess.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking. We met. I think it was around that time. I'm not sure if that was actually the first time we met, but we have documented proof of us meeting at. We got a picture together at Brennan's, which was a great little room for
so
comedy. Matt Conti did a lot of booking down there.
So good.
Yeah, I remember. Like you're saying, I think we talked about how like they rearranged it. It was like a very narrow kind of room at first. They had the position. They had a bar down there, and it's just a
lot of room. Yeah,
tiny little basement with this little, this bar, and then like not a whole lot of seating, not a lot of depth there for the seating. It was more wide.
How many people do you think they could fit in there?
I don't know. Maybe maxed out at 40 or something.
Like. Maybe it was not, and it's like a cellar, so there's no ventilation. At first, you're like, oh man, you forget it's like, oh, it's cool underground, But then you get 15 people in this space, and it just gets real stuffy. But man, it was so good.
I got to see one night was like, I don't know, like Henry Phillips and Chad Daniels and Josh Arnold and Nikki Glazer and like all the, these are all, headliner comedians.
Yeah.
In this basement doing, and I'm like, this is incredible. Like
first time I did that room, I had to follow Tommy Johnigan, and it was the week that Tommy was like first featured on Last Comic Standing. And everybody was kind of like buzzing about it, because Tommy's so fucking funny, and like was really funny on that show. And hometown guy, everybody was like, "Oh, Tommy's coming tonight. Tommy's coming." Well, he was either running late or had to go somewhere else, and they bumped him to right in front of me. And this show had like Greg Warren was on this show, Conti, I think Josh Arnold. Like it, I mean, the lineups that they had at those show were just so funny. So many really good people. and then they're like, hey, Tommy's gonna go in front of you, and he kills so hard for 20 straight minutes. And this is like my first introduction into like to some of these people. Like I'm like, oh, this dude's funny, but he lives in Illinois, so he doesn't come over here a lot. And this is a lot of people's first time seeing me. And I had to follow Tommy after like 20 just killer minutes.
All right.
And it really like it took some time. It took some time for me to go, okay, I'm not Tommy Johnigan or anything close. I mean, it was like it was so good. He's so funny. But that room was so fun for so many different shows, and they did a lot of weird shit there, and it was awesome. The debates were there. It's just like so good. That was like one of my favorite rooms in the whole city.
I don't know if this light might.
Yeah,
something like
that's
that.
me with several pairs of glasses ago. Yeah, I'm probably like I don't know, 26.
Yeah,
right there. Yeah,
man.
27.
It was another fun show I was thinking about that we went to together. In the it was the Bare Knuckle Comedy Show,
the Duck Room,
in the Elvis Room, right?
Elvis Room. Yeah.
And another. Just like I was looking back at some of our, Facebook memories. It's a nice thing about that they preserve some of that for us. But like obviously Christian Lawrence and Kevin White and Kevin O'Brien and Bobby J. Cox. Like, I mean, it was another just amazing lineup of young talent in town. And it was an incredible evening, man.
I remember that show. I have this. I'm a storyteller. That's like my comedy. I tell long, drawn out stories that probably should be a lot tighter and a lot more concise. But I like doing it. What I do. And I had just like started telling the story about like a really embarrassing thing that happened to me in high school where I was in the wrong and like I did some dumb shit, and it was like very revealing. It's on my album, and you can hear it if you want. The track is called "The Fall of Alexandria," but it's very dumb. But I remember telling it, and it was just like there weren't like a ton of people at that show. There was probably like a dozen. Like it wasn't like super well attended, but everybody was just like so attentive and so into what was going on that it's like, oh yeah, comedy is like the most fun thing in the world when you get to do it. And like even when like the conditions aren't like super ideal, like a show with not a lot of people, you can still have a great time, and like in the audience or on stage. That's like a show that I really look back on it as very fondly.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was a great night.
There's also in there. I don't know if you've ever seen it. There's all these pictures with Chuck Berry and celebrities, right?
Oh yeah.
There's one with him and Donald Glover, and the name on it says Danny Glover.
Yeah,
it's the wrong Glover.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's so funny to me.
Right. Well, my favorite Donald Glover joke about his name is that he says on Twitter, I think it was that his name is Don Glover, and it looks like Dong Glover.
Dong Glover.
And I was like, it's just funny to me too.
He's a guy that showed up talking about St. Louis Comedy Memories. He was doing a show at the pageant, and he showed up to Fitz's one night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but that's cool.
Yeah.
I know Regan's really good about that kind of stuff. Like, after doing a theater show, he'll come to the Funny Bone or something like that, and like kind of things like, and say hi and whatever, like support. And so that's, I think it's good that those guys remember the small rooms that took care of them on their way up and stuff.
In Austin, when I lived there in Austin, Louis C.K., can I say his name? Louis C.K. Came through town with like Mark Norman and maybe like Joe List or somebody else, but it was him and his two openers, and they came to the Velveeta Room, great club in Austin, Texas, and the door guy didn't know who they were, so he carded and charged all of them to come in, and the owner had to the manager had to be like, hey, that's Louis C.K. He's literally like the most famous comedian in the world. And but it's like Jeselnik does that. Kyle Kinane has come through and done stuff like that. It's really cool to go and see somebody that, like oh yeah, they're working the big club this week, and they're going to come to this smaller alternative room and just drop in on a Thursday night and
Right.
do 15 minutes and open mic, and everybody like has just a great time. It's really cool when that stuff happens.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You mentioned that story on your album, and I'm glad you did because I wanted to talk about it. I don't, not that I want you to like recite your whole bit from your record or anything, but
Sure.
But you talk about that, you tell that story, and it made me laugh because it reminded me of a memory from in school, and not necessarily my story, but we had a friend, Tommy, and he's a little different, but he was always he was always one of the guys with us, like he was on our football team and stuff, and like.
Yeah.
We would give him kind of a hard time sometimes, but if anybody else did, like, we'd kick their ass kind of thing. Like, he was our buddy, but like, we didn't want anybody else picking on him or anything like that. But I remember Tommy telling us a story that he had this girlfriend, and we were all like, what, really, Tommy, you have a girlfriend? He's like, and he told us that she was in prison for killing a guy. And,
oh, Jesus.
And we're like, well,
Tommy,
that escalated pretty quickly, so we're just like, I was just loved this story that he was telling us. And I'm like, part of me really wants us to believe that this is real. So then to hear you telling your story that, there's some similarities there that obviously and it just made me laugh that hearing somebody else to share a similar stories and stuff. So
yeah, it's weird. So the story on the album is that when I was in high school, I told all of my classmates that I had a girlfriend who killed herself. And because like as like a mentally ill 13-year-old, just like my parents were divorced. I was not like a happy kid. And I had like a really, at times traumatic upbringing. I had moved to a new school, and it was the first time I had ever moved, and it was like a very uncomfortable position. So my goal is just like, how do I get these people to like me or like feel for me? So that's what I told them, and I got away with it. And like, I never had to like own up to it. I never had to like admit it. I didn't even tell anybody until I started doing this as a bit. And that was like really freeing for me, because I think it's a really fun story, and I like telling it because I'm the bad guy, but by the end, like I'm at least they're on my side, It's just like when you can do that in comedy, that's like the cool thing about it, is that you can you can create a perception in their head and then change it just a moment later to the point where like you're two different people in the span of like 3 minutes, and they hate you and then they love you.
All right.
You can do that. And I feel like that for me, that bit was like one of the first ones where I felt like, oh, okay, I feel like I really know where I'm coming from as a comic. Like you hear people talk about like the voice, and that's one of the first ones where I'm like, I think I've dialed it in at least to like where I'm at, where I know the perspective that I'm talking from. And it felt, that's like one of my favorite things to do is that bit.
We're talking about your album Secrets that you released in 2019, and available wherever you get your digital media at now, and everything. But this is a great record, man. I really enjoyed it. Actually, I got to tell you, man, it might be like a record for the fastest I ever laughed on an album. Like, I think it's 4 seconds in, I heard somebody else like laugh really loud next to the microphone, and just made me laugh. Like, so it was a great introduction. Just like, please welcome to the stage, Aaron Brooks, and woo!
Yeah, there's just one. So that number one, like I'm really proud of that record and like how it turned out. There's a guy in Austin, Dustin Swaylock. He records everything. If there's a comedian down there who needs something, he records it. People hire him to like drive and record stuff. He's a wizard, and he's one of my good friends, and he did like a great job on it. And it was recorded in the small room at Cap City Comedy Club, and which is now closed as of like a week ago. Huge loss for comedy. It was such a great space. And that's where I was lucky enough to like be able to record there on this show called Punch, which was one of the best shows in the entire country. Tuesday nights in the smaller McCap City, there's like 110 people in there, and you couldn't find a better crowd anywhere in America. And the guy who ran that, Matt Bearden, he's the guy who introduces me on the record. He's kind of like the godfather of Austin comedy. Everybody kind of looks at him that way. And he's a guy who's also like a storyteller and a really important person. And he was like really influential in me becoming the kind of comic that I am. And so I'm so happy with how it turned out. And yeah, I don't know. It feels like good to have like a body of work kind of summarized, like that. And
yeah, man.
Yeah, well, it felt like an accomplishment.
You talk about on the record, and then as you kind of talked about just a bit ago, you didn't have necessarily the best childhood, like growing up. I mean, you talk about it, in some detail throughout the album, and and obviously that's not any kind of new story. That a lot of comedy comes from pain. A lot of these guys a lot of comedians are very damaged, so but that's where they find that way to take whatever hurt them to make it funny and make you laugh at it, even though it's very sensitive and things, but you get to that point where you can finally make it funny and somehow. So
Richard Pryor is the best comedian of all time, like he's just like a damaged person.
Right. But so you, I guess, I don't know, you feel like that kind of helped get you into comedy, was like to talk about some of these things, or like, did you look for that kind of outlet as like a therapy or some kind of sort of thing, almost like, or was it just, where did you find that where I need to get on stage and start talking about this stuff, share some of these stories?
I've always been like self-deprecating. That's just always been me. So I've always been like the funny guy, then I was class clown my senior year of high school, I think I got
biggest heart. That was my superlative.
Oh man. That's really beautiful, Shane.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, you're a great man.
Thank you.
But I'd always been like funny, and I didn't have a lot going for me. I got kicked out of college after one semester due to like financial aid stuff. I came home. I didn't really have anything. And so I went to school to be in radio, and I did that for like a year. And as soon as I got out, my grandmother on my mom's side, my granny, she fell and broke a hip and had a stroke. And I stopped looking for jobs, like radio jobs. I had job offers all over the country to do it. And I stopped looking because like I had to take care of my grandmother. So my mom and I for the next year were like her primary caretakers. And my mom's a night nurse. So when she would go to work, I would stay with her at night and just watch her. And I put everything on hold for like a year, and she passed away. A couple months after that, I was just like, just so distraught and beside myself. And I just like, nothing felt good. And I decided to like try it and just see, because I played music for years before I ever did stand up. And so I had been on stage before. So I felt like, yeah, I can go in front of people and tell jokes. So I went on a Wednesday night, and I brought a bunch of friends and had a great time, and got to come back and just kind of kept going from there. But it was a thing that came to me when I was 25, and I wish I would have done it a lot sooner. But like, it was always something that I'd wanted to do, and just eventually gravitated towards it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I don't know. I used to hang out like all the time at Funny Bone because it was the only club in town at the time. And I spent like almost every Sunday night there just hanging out, watching comedy.
Yeah.
I worked evenings Monday through Friday. So like Sunday nights was good for me to go out because I didn't have to be at work at first thing Monday morning. So
yeah.
and I had those Kilo Diabetes Foundation passes or whatever. So
Oh yeah.
so I go to Sunday for $1, and wasn't it's a good deal for me.
Yeah, definitely.
And but so that's where I got in, get to know a lot of up and coming comedians that were headlining and stuff. I got to become real good friends with a lot of greats, and then I got to know all of our locals, obviously, who a lot of them, Tommy John again, like you mentioned, got to see him a whole lot on his way up, and Nikki Glazier and whatever, so on. We had a bunch of, really amazing people come through St. Louis comedy.
Do you have a favorite show of anybody that you saw? Is there like one that sticks out as like, oh man, this person just killed me?
I don't know, man. There's Jonigan's obviously always one that comes to mind because the way he was able to destroy hecklers sometimes, like if anybody was dumb enough to say anything, he would just like lay into them and just make them look like an idiot. And it was always made me laugh. And I remember seeing Jeselnik at Funny Bone on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah,
and it was also the midnight show, so everybody's just hammered on
St. Patrick.
Yeah,
Jesus
and
Christ.
and he's just like letting it rip on just roasting everyone there, and somebody like threw up in their beer bucket, like
Jesus,
right in their front there, and like
of course,
yeah. So
God,
things like that, man. There's definitely some stories to, but most of those shows, if I always try to tell people if you ever had the opportunity to go to any of those shows and sit next to Josh Arnold, it makes the show so much better because just hearing Josh laugh makes me laugh. So he's just very infectious. Hearing his big laugh. So
what a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, man. He's I'm bummed I don't get to see him nearly as often as I'd like anymore. Since he's moved out of town also, and so that's kind of the thing that stinks, man. You become buddies with people, and I mean, obviously, you want everybody to do well and succeed, and move on to bigger and better things. And but it stinks when you don't get to see everybody as often as you once did.
Yeah, it's really weird, like coming up, and it's same on this side too. Like you come up in comedy, and it's like I don't want to like romanticize it, but it just when you start having fun and you start like getting okay at it, it's a really, really exciting time. I mean, because it's not necessarily like an easy thing to do, and it's something that can really take it out of you when it doesn't go well. So when you start like getting success and you start getting like the feedback that you've worked for, every show is just like the most fun thing because it's like you figured it out. You figured something out, and now you're going to go show it off. And like the people that you experience that with, you develop these like serious, intense, fast friendships with very little in common other than comedy, other than like the brotherhood, sisterhood element of it, of like we're all going through this shit together and we like what each other's doing. But outside of that, like you make friends with people that you'd have, if you didn't have comedy, you'd have nothing in common, and you'd probably never be friends with them. But though they're like very fast, very intense friendships, and then one of you moves away and then you don't talk for 2 years. Right. So and that's the norm. And because it's like, you're not really friends with a lot of the people you're friends with in comedy. It's like being in a platoon, I guess. You just you all know the same. You've all got the same war stories in whatever context. But it's friendship and comedy is very strange.
Yeah. You like I said, we've talked about, you started here in St. Louis, but you moved Austin 2012. And you've been doing well down there. I'm assuming, right? Everything going good and up until 2020.
Well, I moved to Los Angeles. Okay. Last August.
Oh, all right.
But from 2012 to 2019, I was in Austin, and it's like it's my favorite place in the world.
Yeah.
It's a really great city, especially for like artists or people. I mean, it's a place where you'd go nuts with all like the live music that's down there. It's just like it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like so vibrant and such a great city, and like the culture around it is really wonderful. And so much of that for me was like comedy. It's a really inviting, accepting city that the audience is there. They give you plenty of rope, man. Like you can get away with a lot of shit down in Austin, and they laugh at a lot of stuff that they aren't going to laugh at in other parts of the country. So it can be like this velvet rut. Kevin O'Brien calls it the velvet rut. It's just like everything's really good. You know, everything's really good. The weather's fucking great.
Yeah.
There's no state taxes. I was in love with a wonderful, beautiful woman for years. I had a job that paid me like really well for doing not a lot of work, and I was in like one of the best comedy scenes in the country. But as good as that was, like I got to work at Cap City Comedy Club, one of the best in the country. I recorded my album there.
Yeah.
You know, I did Moon Tower Comedy Festival several times. I was in other festivals in the area. Like there's a lot that's really good there, but you kind of hit it. You know, when you do so much stuff, like you kind of come up against the ceiling and you're like, well, what else can I do? And if you want to like have a career out of it, for the most part, you gotta leave. You gotta go east or west. Yeah. But Austin's incredible, man. The comedy there is great.
Well, everything's awesome. You used to do a podcast down there.
I did a couple of them.
Stay Wonderful, I used to listen to a lot. That you recorded at Cap City, like you were talking about. And you got to record. I was just actually pulled it up today because as we were getting ready to talk to you, I wanted to kind of. But I remember listening to a bunch of your interviews, and it was actually like right before I even got to start doing my show. So like it was fun to hear people doing this format before I discovered like that I've had a passion to do this too. Yeah. And but I remember hearing like your interviews with Posehn and Daniels and but like what's cool about it now that obviously they're still all up there and like guys that I didn't fully know at the time, but now like I'm a big fan of like Justin Willman. I've been watching a lot of Magic for Humans.
Dude, this is a PSA. If you give me a single ticket to see a show by any comedian that I've ever met, without a doubt, it's Justin Willman. Justin Willman is the most fun I've ever had at a live show. He's awesome. And he's such a nice dude. He did after the podcast we recorded, he asked me, he's like, do you want to see a magic trick? He goes, I'll do a close magic trick for you. And I was like, absolutely. Yes, please. And so he pulled out a deck of cards, shuffled them, had me cut it like 3 times, whatever. And he goes, okay, pick a card. I picked the card out. Look at the card, memorize the card, put it back in the deck, right? And I'm like watching his hands, right? And he's just shuffling, right? And he puts the deck of cards down on the table and he pulls his phone out. And on the screen of his phone is a floating playing card. And he goes, I want you to visualize that playing card in your mind, whatever your card was, and then tap the card on the phone. I tapped the card on the phone. And Shane, I swear to God, the card that I pulled literally slid out from underneath the phone. And his hand didn't move. I have no idea how he fucking did it. My mind was blown. Go see Justin Willman if you have a chance. It's a great fucking show.
Well, I mean, just that story is exactly how I feel every time I'm watching him on Magic for Humans.
That show's so funny
because he's hilarious, but also every one of those tricks, I'm like, how? I have no, like the marshmallow, especially the ones where he's messing with the kids, like he's putting marshmallows in his mouth and all that stuff like that. Like
the one where he puts the lady's cell phone in a balloon and then it's taped to his back. Right. It's like, what the hell? He's great, man.
But that's what it was fun to learn that he's also from St. Louis, which I thought was just a fun fact. Like I don't know a lot of his story, if he started comedy and magic here in town, or not. But it's just fun that like to see these guys go on and do well for themselves. And
Yeah.
I was hoping to see him. He was coming back but say like this year's everything's canceled, but he was supposed to be playing the pageant, and I was supposed to take me and my wife were going to go out for a date night there and go see him. And so hopefully that'll be made up next year or something. But he. So anyway, just like at the time, again, this was 6 years ago. I didn't really know Justin's name as much as I do now. So it was fun to go back and see those in the archive still. So
yeah.
So you did the Stay Wonderful podcast. You were doing that for a while. Most recently you've been, what's that? How do you say that?
The Lanalax Corporation.
Lanalax,
yeah. We recorded. Basically, it was a choose your own adventure style podcast. Somebody called it Dungeons and Dragons meets Black Mirror.
Yeah.
So basically how it works is there's two people, and I would pitch you a hypothetical. There's a universe that we built that was full of weird characters and weird tropes, and I would guide you through this story that takes place in this universe, and you would make choices and take actions, and that would ultimately influence where the story would go, because we improvised most of it. I had an idea of what I wanted you to do, but so if I'm you go meet the mechanic, what's the name of the shop? I have to make it up on the spot. So everything has a stupid fucking name, and every person is made up. So who's this name? But this is Carl Funk. And it's, just it's all so made up. So everything sounds really dumb and everything's really stupid.
Yeah.
But it's just a fun choose your own adventure style storytelling show. We put one out every single weekday for the better part of 3 years. So there's 721 episodes online. We just ended it recently. But everything is out there online, at least for the time being.
Yeah. I think Christian Lawrence wrote in asking why you guys stopped recording. Was this did you just
there's some personal stuff going on behind the scenes that really made it kind of untenable moving forward. And we had almost three really good years of really creatively rewarding shows, and I'm really sad that it's ended. But it's just stuff happens in life, and you get to a point where stuff just doesn't. It's just not going to work moving forward, and that's just kind of where we came to. Especially
doing that often, that's a lot of content.
It's just one of those things that it's not really my story to tell, so I wouldn't feel comfortable talking about it in that detail. But we'd rather focus on the stuff that we did, and like I said, the really cool world that we built, and we sort of, I'm not going to say created, but the vehicle on the show, the format of how the show worked, we've had several people talk to us and say, hey, I give my friends Lanalaxes. That's what they call it. My friends and I will do Lanalaxes to each other. And it's we had somebody dress up as one of our characters at a Ren fair.
There you go.
We've had people do stuff on Halloween. It was the people who were into the show were super, super, super into it. And then there were other people who didn't like it at all. And that's totally fine too. We realized we weren't for everybody.
Well, you're saying, your storytelling and your comedy and everything, it comes through. I like the way you are able to craft the story, the details that you use, the adjectives and everything else. There's a lot of descriptors, and you're able to really kind of, as you are telling the story, you're almost able to paint the picture of this hypothetical, world or whatever, so it's it's fun for me to kind of get into it all like that. And even listening to your comedy, the way you tell a story, the way you describe certain people and or whatever it is and stuff. I just I like having a lot of detail like that, and it's fun.
Yeah, me too. And one thing with comedy is that everybody always tells you to edit, and most people take that as being trim, make it shorter. And I'm somebody who's but I like this. I want to leave this in, and it's not how do I trim the fat, but how do I beef it up. How do I take the stuff that I really like and the stuff that I feel like makes the story, makes the whole thing as a bit. Like if you remove some of that, it's you can still have like a really funny story, but if you like leave it in and build it up, it's going to make it just like so much better. And so that to me is the challenge, is like get a story, like focus on the story itself, tell the story from A to Z and have all the beats in there that you want, and then you build it up. You don't have to constantly be stripping away. So I think there's plenty of room in comedy to you know, use like flowery language if you want, and like the way you tell it, like how you control like the tempo of a story, and even just from how quickly you're talking or how loudly or quiet, like there's so much you can do with it that really fills it out, that I think it's overlooked a lot of times. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm also full of shit, so like, I couldn't write a joke to save my fucking life, but I could tell you a 10-minute story about a time I was utterly humiliated in front of somebody. But I can't just. I've never been somebody who can like set up punchline joke. I've never been able to do that. Yeah,
well, but I think like as much as like I don't know. I guess I'm sure there's probably like guys that wish they could do what you do, though. Like, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean the grass is always greener, kind of a thing.
So it's like I guess there is a little bit of that where people are envious of that you have more skill that they don't, or they have a skill you don't and stuff. So yeah, but yeah, like there are those guys that seem to be able to just do it all. Sometimes, like they can write and perform. They can do punchlines. They can do stories or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just
fuck those people.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
they're good looking. They're great in bed. Parents love them. Yeah.
But that is there? I guess with that show kind of coming to an end, is there? Are you wanting to do any more podcasting? Are you going to take a break for a while, or?
I think I'm going to take a bit of a break, just to figure something out. Mm-hmm. I think that like whatever I do next will be similar in style. Like I really like being like a storyteller like I am. It probably feels very like deliberate, but I'm as good on my feet as a comedian as you're going to find. And I don't think a lot of people realize that like I'm really good with like crowd work, and if somebody wants to heckle me, feel free. Like I'm pretty good with like that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't want to invite hecklers, but like I like that interactive element of it. So I think like that's just something that kind of comes like very natural to me. Mm-hmm. And that kind of tightrope that you walk of like, how am I going to make this thing funny in the moment with my back's against the wall? That's like my favorite feeling in comedy. So I think that like having that element of it in whatever I'm doing moving forward makes a lot of sense. But we'll figure out what it looks like and where it's going to go, and it'll be different in its own way.
Yeah, man.
And it probably won't be nearly as good, and I'll probably give up on it 6 months in. But the Lanalax Corporation was great when it lasted. It was really, really special. And you like weird storytelling, it's awesome, and there's a lot of it out there.
Yeah, definitely check it out. And like I said, there's a lot of hours of entertainment out there. So
literally, like it's like 2 weeks worth if you went top to bottom.
Yeah,
and never turn it off. So
yeah, and you can find all things Aaron Brooks on you got Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Twitter at Funny Brooks, or right? Yeah,
yep.
Yeah. So check that out. Get involved online there. You mentioned earlier about playing music, and I didn't know that about you. What kind of music were you playing?
I was in a ska band for years.
All right,
and I was also in a couple of pop punk bands too.
What are you playing?
What do you think I play?
I'm gonna go bass guitar.
I was a singer.
Singer, right?
All right. Man. I've got some pipes actually. Yeah, it's surprising. I was a singer, and I played a little bit of trumpet in the ska band, and then I was exclusively a singer in the pop punk band.
Okay.
So,
do their band really like do much, or just kind of garage shows and how how those things are.
We played out like monthly. We'd have like a monthly show somewhere in the city, doing whatever. The ska band was 2004 to like 2006 or 7 probably. We won like a battle of the bands of pops, and we got played on the radio. We opened up for Bowling for Soup, and like they had talked to somebody about like us going on tour with them at one point. Like we were supposed to have a meeting with an A&R rep from like Interscope, and like that didn't pan out, but like we had communication with a couple people.
Right.
But I was the oldest kid in the band at 19, and the youngest kid in the band was 14. Shane, I was in the band with a 14-year-old. He played the saxophone. He could play 2 different saxophones at the same time. He was fucking awesome. His name's Zach Haven, and he played trombone for us too. But we had like a little horn section, and we're just a high energy, and it was a lot of fun, and yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. What are you do any of that still, or you do any singing still?
No, I mean I might do karaoke a couple times a year, but that's about it.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Depends on my mood.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I'll do You Can Leave Your Hat On by Joe Cocker.
Great song. Yeah. Right.
I'll do Just What I Needed by the Cars. Those are probably my 2 go-to.
Yeah. I've been known to bust out some Night Moves by Bob Seger.
Oh man, I love Bob. I'm white trash to my core. I genuinely love Bob Seger so fucking much, so much.
Yeah, I was actually just telling the story the other day that I saw Aaron Lewis at the pageant and doing like a solo acoustic thing, and he did a cover of Turn the Page from Seeger, and I filmed it all on my cell phone, put it up on YouTube, and it was pretty decent quality and everything, and I was up front, it sounded really good. And anyway, one day later I'm sitting there scrolling through Facebook, and I saw Bob Seger's Facebook page shared this video of Aaron Lewis singing Turn the Page, and I click on it, and it's my video, and I was
shit.
I was like, oh hey, now I'm like, me and Bob Seger are best friends now. So,
man,
yeah,
I'm so jealous of you. I love Bob Seger so much.
1 degree of separation from Bob Seger's Facebook page.
Oh, that means you're only 2 away from Pete Seeger. He was on Reading Rainbow, so that means you're right there. You're 3 away from LeVar Burton, Shane.
Yeah,
God, why didn't you tell me this?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I just
burying the lead.
Yeah. That another. Speaking of LeVar Burton, he was one of my other favorite podcasts I like to listen to is About Last Night podcast with Adam Ray.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to listen with Brad Williams. He used to be on there a lot, and he just had LeVar Burton on. So it was
oh man,
it was a lot of fun hearing him talk about some of the stories of Reading Rainbow and everything else. So
were you a big Reading Rainbow fan when you were younger?
I mean, I don't know, necessarily a big fan, but I definitely knew of the show.
Yeah.
And then like but yeah, I don't know. I was more in cartoons and stuff. Of course, anything Ninja Turtles or and stuff, Power Rangers and everything else. So
the original Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was took up more of my time than PBS.
I hear that.
So, but anyway, so but yeah, so Seeger's the man, though, that's for sure.
So good.
I asked you if you about some music. Did you happen to compile a list of any of those, or
which ones were
some albums that was a big influential on you?
I did put that on the list. Here, let me pull that up. So I grew up listening to country music. Then I got into like pop punk when I was a teenager. That was where I went, and I've kind of stayed there into my 30s. So I feel like it depends on what era of my life we're talking about.
Yeah.
If we're talking like an album that really meant a lot to me as a kid, Garth Brooks, The Hits. I think that kind of is a perfect encapsulation of my youth.
Right.
He was the fucking man, and anybody who thinks otherwise can fuck off. The guy is an incredible entertainer and a powerhouse. You know what I mean? I don't. He's undeniable to me. The Hits, just because I really like that, and I had it on cassette, and my sister burned it, and I never got it back. So maybe I should look it up again. But
yeah.
Then the first CD I ever bought was Dude Ranch from Blink-182.
There you go.
And that was like the first CD that I had heard that was like oh, this is different than like the country music that I'm hearing. You know, you read the lyrics along with the words, and like country music is so formulaic, you can just kind of like puzzle piece it, and you know what it's going to sound like when you're reading it, and it couldn't do that with Dude Ranch, and it really captured my attention in a way. And then it's like I'm looking at the back of the label or the back of the thing, thanks to like all these other bands, and it's like, oh, who's MXPX, who's Cut You Up, you know, who's Less Than Jake, like, and then you just like look this, you just get it and get it. So Dude Ranch is like my gateway into something other than popular country music.
So how did you discover that then? Was that friends or
yeah, a friend of mine had the Damn It single CD, and it was just like playing in his radio, and I was like, what is that? And he told me, and I went, and that was like the first, we had like just got a CD player, and I was like, that was the first one I bought.
Yeah. My buddy Josh had an older brother, Kyle, and I'd go, you know, we hung out a lot, obviously, over at their house. And I remember it was probably right around that same era, a similar time where, and I remember him introducing me to like Everclear, Sparkle and Fade.
Yeah.
And Jimmy's Chicken Shack.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know, just a lot of these, like, you know, kind of in that vein of like rock and music and stuff, and some of the others and stuff. But like a lot of it, prior to that, again, like kind of where you were at country, it was more, I was listening to things that my parents influenced me by. So like, it was fun to kind of start discovering different stuff that was, you know, and other things that I liked.
Yeah. And as I got older, like, Tell Your Friends from Taking Back Sunday is like a record that just like for me defines like my very limited college experience, and then the years, like several years after that, and like now, like some of these things are turning like 20 years old, and I'm like, oh shit, oh man, I'm so old now.
I think as we're recording this, I saw today Story of the Year's Page Avenue record is turned 17 years old today.
Jeez.
So that was crazy for me to think about that. It's came out December 16, 2003.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What a record.
You as you were talking Blink-182, another funny story came to mind. I think it was my freshman year. We were going to football 2-a-days. And so this is 99, and I think maybe, what was it? I think it was Take Off Your Pants and Jacket record was out at that time, something like that. I think it was that record. But like I remember that it was pretty new or something right around that time, and I bet there was these two goofy guys on the football team, Andrew and Jared, and they had like this Ford Ranger that they're driving, and they're both like 6.5 feet tall kind of guys. They're just big guys, way too big for this truck. And both of them are like hanging out the sides of the truck, and they're screaming that, I want to fuck a dog in the ass, singing that song. And like, and I just remember just cracking up, and like, that's what, as much as they had like serious songs and stuff too, but those guys had some of the goofiest, silliest shit on their records, and like, and just made me always laugh.
On Dude Ranch, there's a track, I think it ends with like the sound of kissing and like soft moaning, and it's like 10 seconds long, and then you just hear a horse whinny, and it's like that's the whole thing, and it's like, what these guys are just, and it blew my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're definitely silly, and like the videos were, funny for as far as like videos that were on like TRL and stuff
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
I remember, I'm sure you've seen online there the kids reacting to
Yeah.
different. And I remember there was one where Mark is like watching the kids react to their videos and like where they're like running naked down the street and stuff. And, so like it was just funny hearing some of the things these kids have to say about, what pop music was, in 2000. So,
yeah, it's like they did one with Smooth, and it's like I guess once another thing just about getting older. It's like, how do they not know this song? It was like the most popular song in the world for a time, and it's like known. It's widely like regarded as like what's like this huge pop hit that was overplayed so much. But then it's like, oh yeah, I guess these kids aren't almost 40 years old, so like okay, they would have been babies.
Yeah.
When this happened. So yeah, they wouldn't know. I don't remember a goddamn song from when I was a baby. Yeah.
But yeah. Do you have any is there a fourth record on there?
Let me see. So another one that I have here, I don't like that one so much. I thought I had a good one. There's a record by the band Brand New, which is problematic now because he's a creep.
Oh, yeah.
But they have a record called The Devil and God Are Raging Inside of Me. And it's like I went through a period of time where I was also very depressed and sad. And it's a record that is just kind of like distilled sadness over the course of the whole thing. And I had never heard anything that made me physically feel bad about myself until I had heard that record, so yeah, that one is one that sticks with me too. I also just have like, I did have one here. I didn't want to say, I did have the Bob Seger greatest hits. The one, I almost made this my album cover where I was going to recreate this the greatest hits with like him on a train track,
Yeah.
It's because like my dad had that cassette in his car. Like, I don't have a lot of good memories of my dad, but I remember that like he had this cassette in his car and he would just play that. Oh, it was like the song that it was just like always on. Mm-hmm. And I remember loving it. It's like, dude, I grew up listening to Bob Seger. So that is an album that like I listen to probably a couple times a month, I would say.
Still?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy how for me, it's one of my favorite things about music is that, though you can put those records on or a song and like time travel right back to that day, or whatever.
Sure.
And it's like, it's such a weird thing that it completely preserves those memories of like, and like you can almost smell that smell or whatever, and it's like, it's just, but there's definitely a lot of them for me too, like that. Like, I remember spending a lot of time. I had an older cousin, and he got me into like. We used to cruise around in his car, and he introduced me to like Pink Floyd's The Wall, and also like Eazy-E. So I remember that was like one of my first records I bought by myself was Eazy-E's Straight Off the Streets of Motherfucking Compton.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, like it's just, but it's crazy how like that, man, like I can do a lot of that with some music and stuff. I think about my dad a lot when I hear some of those songs that he used to listen to a lot of Conway Twitty. And we had a Conway Twitty box set. So I remember like, even at the time I really didn't think about it much, but like I'm just like, these are kind of fun songs. Now as an adult, I listen to them. I'm like, man, these songs are filthy. Like,
as a child, you don't understand innuendo.
Right.
The only other album I had written down was Sam Cooke live at the Harlem Square.
There you go.
The Harlem Square Club. I may have got the title wrong. It's just like it's this incredible. It's an album that like when I hear, I think of like a relationship that I was in. A very important relationship in my life that like was something that sort of I feel like transitioned me from being like a shitty, just like a shithead, you know what I mean? Just like a person who didn't really care about themselves at all, into somebody who realized that he has value, as a friend and a partner. Very important relationship in my life. Sam Cooke live at the Harlem Square Club, but the version on that record, the version of Bring It On Home to Me, is fucking phenomenal. And the whole thing is just like, it's like a crazy energy. It's like the best live album I've ever heard, and I can put it on and it puts me in a certain apartment. It puts like a certain dish on the stove. It puts like a feel of like tile beneath my feet. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's very like, a lot of sense memories kind of come along with it, you know. And it's crazy how like that stuff just happens. You know, it's just in your head now, and
Right.
everything lives there.
Yeah, man. A lot of for me too is it's like driving in my car. Like the first time, like obviously that's a pretty big moment in your life whenever you're 16 and you get your, or whatever, you know, and you get you have creative control now over the radio and everything. Like, this is your car, this is your radio, and you know, so like that was always a big moment. And I remember I always you know, I can recall all the crazy songs that me and my buddies used to sing and cruising around town. I had an 88 Crown Vic station wagon.
Hell yeah.
And we, you know, it was like I had like two 12-inch Jensen subs like in the very back.
In the back.
Like I would just cruise around and crank up, roll down that back window and crank it up, and it was definitely a lot of fun in that car.
Yeah, I had my first car was an 84 Chrysler LeBaron that would just shut off driving down the road. It would just turn off. Yeah. So you had, like, I would be driving on 255 and have to put my car in neutral and start it back up. And then I have to like rev the engine, then drop it. It was a fucking nightmare. But I had a station wagon for a long time.
Yeah.
A Ford Escort station wagon. And yeah, man, nothing like a wagon. You know what I mean?
I took 13 people to the bowling alley one time in that car.
Oh shit!
We had that thing loaded down. It was
man. Yeah, I was the guy everybody would call when it's time to go to Skyview. Let's go to the drive-in.
All right.
Aaron, bring your car so we can fit 3 of us in the back.
Yeah.
Because I had that little shade that you could draw over so people couldn't look. It's like, sure. Yeah, of course I'm going to use that. Of course I'm going to sneak people into the drive-in.
We did the same thing at the county fair. So, you know, it was the same kind of thing. You pay the car price, and that was Yep. Yeah, man. Well, that's those are definitely some good ones, man. Some great music there. I just like I said, it's always fun to I feel like those are nice little glimpses and you know, know a little bit more about Aaron Brooks and stuff.
Yeah, I've always been like I've always liked a lot of different music, and just kind of stuck with like pop punk and indie rock, and there's the fourth wave emo stuff that's happening right now is really exciting. There's a lot going on out there. Yeah. You know, a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of good music for somebody who likes what I like right now.
Yeah, man.
Which is good.
I often tell people that all the time, like, regardless of whatever it is you like, you know, people always like, they don't make good music anymore or whatever.
Oh, they do.
That kind of shit. And I'm like, you just got to go looking for it. You can, like, the radio may not play it anymore, but there's always new people that grew up, like, you know, loving this music, still love this music and play it. Like, yeah. And I have friends that have a new metal band right now. Like, you know, they grew up being big fans of Linkin Park and all that stuff like that. And they like playing that music still. And it's like, yeah, the radio doesn't, you know, play a lot of like that kind of stuff anymore, but it's still out there. Still people that still love going to these shows and having a good time and singing along. And
well, you're also having like, it's 2020. So there are people in their teens and 20s who have grown up with access to all of the fucking music. You know what I mean? Like I'm 36, so I didn't grow up with it. I mean, the internet wasn't like really everywhere. I mean, even when I was in high school, like we didn't have a computer with internet in my house, you know? So it certainly wasn't all over the place until like after I was already out of school. But you're seeing like people who have grown up with access to everything now are like taking all of these influences that they might not have had before and making their own stuff. So there's so much good music out there. Like you said, you just have to find it, and it's just because there's so much good music, but there's so much bad music. So you have to sift through a lot of this shit. But when you find something that you do really like, it's so rewarding.
Right. Yeah, man. That's what really keeps keeps me motivated doing this podcast. It's that rush, that high I get when I discover my next favorite band, man. It's like, it's so much fun. And especially if they, it's always fun when they're brand new, but it's also fun when they've had a couple of records out, and then you get to like, oh great. Now you get to like deep dive into this catalog and stuff.
Yeah.
And so
do you, when you find somebody that has like several records, do you go newest to oldest or oldest to newest? Or do you not do it chronologically?
It depends. There's artists like where I might be introduced to them at a certain record, but and that still remains to be my favorite because it's typically the one. I mean, not always, but that's typically my favorite because it's the one that I'm most attached to because it's the first one I knew.
Yeah.
And it probably gets the most play. But there's sometimes I don't even listen to even the newer stuff, but I try to go back and listen chronologically just so I can appreciate where they've came from and see the growth as they've, established themselves as an artist and stuff. So, it all varies, but yeah, I try to be a good fan in that sense and go back to the beginning and start over.
I'm the same way. I go oldest to newest when I find it, but I think I'm the same way as you are though. Usually like the record that I am introduced to the band, the record through which I find the band is usually the one that I wind up liking the most.
Right.
So
yeah, there's I'm real big on Jason Isbell and like his record Southeastern, like it's just a masterpiece to me. Like and I remember getting at it at a pretty influential time in my life where like that record was like played a lot, like it was on repeat a lot and through that summer, and it was that record and John Moreland's In the Throes. I think they came out the same day, even like so for me, like, and they have similar tone and similar overall feeling to them. It was very dark, depressing stuff, I love that stuff, man.
I love stuff that makes me feel sad.
Yeah, right. It's just I in my personal life, I feel like I'm very positive, happy, and everything. But like, I love listening to these terribly depressing country songs like that and stuff. Like, so I don't know.
Have you ever heard Slade Cleaves?
Yeah, I know his the name. I don't know. Probably couldn't tell you a single song, but I definitely know his name.
He's got a great song called "Breakfast in Hell" about a guy who dies in a logging accident, and it's like so fucking sad and depressing, but it's also like, man, this is great music. I love sad stuff.
Yeah, but again, it's the storytelling aspect. The same thing that I love about your comedy, I love in my songwriting and stuff too. I love the way that people can craft a story and tell it to you in 3 minutes. So
thanks, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So it's fun, man. I really I have a lot of fun with all this stuff, and getting to watch guys like yourself, getting to learn more music and everything. But you like I said, you do have your record out there, Secrets, which is that kind of like a Hardy Boys kind of cartoon on the front. Or
it's
the
Choose Your Own Adventure novel series. Okay. It's like taken from that. The girl who did the artwork, her name's Alexis Gardner. She's an artist out of Austin. Just fucking awesome. I told her, I was like, I showed her the picture of like one of the actual Choose Your Own Adventure novels, and she's like, okay, I get it. And she took a picture of me like holding a flashlight. She took like 2 pictures, and she goes, okay, I think I got it, and sent me this draft like a week later. And I was like, holy shit, like you just nailed this concept right away. And then she did it and just absolutely knocked it out of the park. I'm so lucky to be friends with like talented people who can do stuff that I can't.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
I remember very early on in the show, used to do the show with my buddy Chris, and he has a friend that's like an illustrator, and like pitched or drafted up this idea, of us as these like cartoon characters, and I remember like it was just such a weird thing for me to look at, like to see this like animated version of myself and stuff. So it was like it's really a wild thing when you see what people with these skills can do, and then like how it looks like you too and stuff. So
yeah, it's weird seeing a cartoon of yourself. It's very strange.
Yeah. But great record. I really I love the album a lot, man. There's so many things. I shared it with my buddy Ryan, because there's he has a kind of a running thing that he has like this talks about hashtag fat life, and he does like all these different he's always talking about snacks and different things, like it's like so there's a lot of material on this record, from the CC's buffet and
being a fat guy.
Yeah. And like, so there's a lot of things where I feel like we connect on in many levels there. So
nice.
And so I sent it to Ryan. I'm like, dude, you're going to love this stuff. So I had him listen to it. So
hell yeah.
But is there you thinking, I mean, obviously not a lot of stage time this year, but I'm guessing are you busy writing a lot during this time?
Yeah, and that's kind of like why I'm in LA anyways. Like I realize I'm 36. I'm a not conventionally attractive, fat, straight white guy. I'm literally like the last person that the industry wants right now. Like I'm not on anybody's radar. Nobody gives a shit about me. I know I'm a really good comedian, and like I can hold my own. I'm a damn good comic. But like I don't think I'm never going to be like a famous comedian or like that. So I think ultimately my boat is pointed in the direction of like a future in writing. So I think I'm doing a lot of stuff as far as like I've just started working on a feature film script with a very good friend of mine. I have a pilot that I'd written about kind of my experience growing up. I got a bunch of spec scripts and a bunch of like shorts. I might actually be, I have like this little universe that I write in that's based on a subdivision that one of my friends grew up in when I was a kid, called Wilson Hills. And it's just like my idea of like my fictionalized hometown where it's a little bit fantastical as well. And I'm writing like a series of origin stories about really bad superheroes, like really boring, dumb superheroes in this small, like Midwestern town. And it's a thing where like life and death is at stake, but nobody gives a shit because of, where it is. So I might be even like releasing those as like a series online, like once every 2 weeks, and just sort of writing through an arc, based on like these dumb characters that I'm working on. So that might be the next thing. I don't really know, but, there's some irons in the fire with some writing projects on the horizon.
Yeah. I mean, I get that's kind of the crazy thing. I imagine it's like exciting, but also scary at the same time. But there are so many options now to like, like you're saying, if you want to get into writing, but there's so many different platforms where you can put your show, whether it's obviously Netflix and Amazon and Hulu or whatever, if you're not, so there's a lot of great opportunities to besides the major networks to get a show picked up and create a life for it, and hopefully find a fan base before before it become moves on to something else too. So
and ultimately just like getting a job, like how can I get a job in a writer's room somewhere? Like that's where like that's like the big goal within the next couple of years is like get myself to the point where I'm writing for a living like that. That's like that's ideal.
Obviously, songwriting is like I talked about as a big part of my life. But I remember hearing Chris Stapleton on Stern Show a while back, who now he's one of the largest country acts touring and everything else. And but
what a fucking crazy story that guy has. Just like out of nowhere and then over. Yeah.
Well, the thing is like he's been
doing it for years.
He's been doing it for years. Yeah, he's had several bands. Playing, played around a lot. He was talking to Howard about how like he learned that writing songs is a career. So he's like, all right, I'll do that. And then he wrote like every #1 song on country radio. Like anytime either he co-wrote or wrote himself, but like all the stuff that for Luke Bryan and Blake Shelton and Jason Aldean or whatever, all these guys were all cutting his songs. So like everybody knew who he was in Nashville, kind of thing. And then of course he put out his record Traveler, right? And then I was fortunate enough to see him in a small club here in St. Louis at Firebird.
Nice.
With like 300 people. And then like the next month he was on the CMAs with Justin Timberlake and blew his career wide open. And and now he's, doing amphitheaters and everything else. Yeah,
it's crazy, man.
I say all that because like that's it can work like that, man. You could be, you could start as a writer and all of a sudden the next door opens up and you get, you're the sidekick on a show or whatever and stuff, so it's like, it's kind of crazy to think about, but man, it happens to people. Like it's a crazy business that you never know where it could go. So
my friend Andrew just got cast today as one of the newest cast members on SNL, and he was a writer there for I think 2 years, and he'd done like a couple like on camera appearances, and then today it comes out, it's like, oh yeah, he's in the cast now. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that kind of stuff definitely happens. Like I think at the end, like wherever my career winds up, I hope I get to the point eventually where I can bring other people with me, and I can say, oh, and this is a good person who works hard and is funny and deserving. Like let's bring them. Yeah. And like that's my hope. Like people want to shit on Adam Sandler a lot, but man, that dude has hooked his friends up, and like been good to the people around him for a long time.
Yeah, he definitely take care of his people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all those guys. It's crazy to me. Like I watch those movies, and like Grown Ups or whatever, and it's like. I like Kevin James and everything, but like, that was supposed to be Farley, like that role.
Yeah.
It's like, that was, that would have been Farley and it would have been a totally different movie and it would have, and
he was supposed to be Shrek.
Yeah. I didn't know that, but
yeah, he was the original choice for Shrek.
Yeah.
And then he died.
But it's just like crazy to think about what those movies would have, what his career would have been like and stuff. But I would have loved to see those guys keep working together and making great comedy.
Yeah. Have you seen Adam Sandler's newest stand-up special from a couple years ago? I think it's called 100% Fresh.
Yeah, and he sings that song.
It's fucking good, dude.
Oh yeah.
I was shocked at how much like I really enjoyed that special.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, it's some good stuff for sure. I do the phone wallet keys. I do that all the time, man. And but I cried my eyes out, man. That Farley tribute at the end, like it was beautiful. But
it's great.
Yep. But yeah, I mean he I don't know. Like I said, everybody he gets shit on a lot for some terrible movies, but like he's still one of my favorites. I did enjoy Uncut Gems. I was a serious role, but I thought it was a pretty entertaining movie. You
did like it?
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like super great or anything, but I thought it was very entertaining. Like it was for what it was and stuff. And
I saw it a lot later than a lot of other people, I think. So I didn't get caught up in it, but everybody's like, "Man, you're gonna love it. It's so good. It's like so intense." And it's like, it's a good movie. I like it, but it wasn't. It didn't do for me what everybody said it.
Yeah, I didn't get into the hype, but like. It was interesting to see him in a different role. Than the funny guy, So something I appreciated that he was able to step out of that and do it so well too.
Yeah. Good.
But yeah, so anyway, man, Aaron, this has been a ton of fun getting to hang with you, buddy.
Likewise, man. Thank you so much. I'm glad we got to do it.
Yeah, I'm glad we made it happen, and we hopefully we can do this again soon sometime, man.
For sure.
Catch up. Hopefully it's not 6 years for the next one.
Yeah. We'll make a point.
Yeah. You plan to come back to town at St. Louis anytime?
I'd like to at some point. I was back for Flyover Festival in November, and I know that got moved to next year. I mean, who knows with all this shit going on right now? I think once everything clears up, knock on wood, I'd love to come back. So
yeah. Yeah, man.
When that happens, I'll let you know.
Yeah, hopefully we can. I'm saying hopefully next time we can hang out in person and
Yeah,
catch up. So
for sure.
But yeah, get involved with Aaron on your Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Like I said, aaronbrooks.com for all things. And be sure to check out that Record Secrets wherever you're getting your digital media today. And yeah, man, thanks, buddy.
Thank you. And thank you for doing this and being such like a good caretaker of the art scene in St. Louis. If you don't get enough credit, you fucking should, because what you're doing is like a labor of love, and I hope you know it's appreciated.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I say it a lot, but yeah, I'm having the time of my life doing this show, man. It's a ton of fun. So
that's awesome.
thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, bye, everybody.